A very warm welcome to each one of you as we tour the land of eternal spring. My name is Kathy Higgins, and I love Guatemala. I'm the co-chair, along with Carrie, of the Guatemala Partnership of Newcastle Presbytery. We are so happy you're with us for this event, What's Cooking in Guatemala? So tonight we're gathering from 2 countries and more than 30 churches and presbyteries and partners. This is pretty exciting. With us tonight, we have several special guests. Betsy Moe, who is our PCUSA mission coworker, working at SEDEPCA and living in Guatemala with her husband and children. We also have several staff and board members from SEDEPCA, who is a ground partner in Guatemala City. And we have some others from the Association of Mom Christian Women for Development. And we saw Johanna, and I think Carlos and Alfredo and Rosario are going to be joining us. We also want to acknowledge many of our church members, family, and friends who lend their support to this vital program and partnership. We have a couple of housekeeping items. We'd like everybody to be on mute, as Carrie mentioned, so that background noise is at a minimum. We also encourage you, if you have questions, to put them in the chat box, as Kim will be looking at the chat box, and after each or at the end of the formal program, we will have time to have conversation around those questions, and people can stay on or log off depending on their time.
And if you can save your questions for in between the videos, otherwise
Thank
block
you.
the video. So just hold on to them and do them when somebody's talking.
Right, perfect, thank you. We have a jam-packed itinerary. We have a lot of meals and scenery to enjoy. So I'm going to turn it over to Candy Dunson.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm Candy Dunson from Newcastle Presbyterian Church, and I had an amazing time on my first trip to Guatemala. Our first video of the evening is called Getting Around. Transportation in Guatemala is both challenging and inventive. City traffic's terrible, and the rural roads are in poor condition. As you'll see, the people in Guatemala find creative ways to get around. In pickup trucks, in brightly painted and decorated school buses called chicken buses, on foot, by boat, and yes, even the fun bright red tuk-tuks, a cross between a motorcycle and a rickshaw. We tried almost all of them. So let's board the plane and see where we go.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, is that good? Everybody can see a full screen there?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. All right. So good evening. I'm Carrie Satoff, as Kathy said, the other co-chair of this partnership, and we have arrived in Guatemala. This was the largest delegation ever sent by Newcastle Presbytery, with 16 travelers from 8 different churches. And we traveled for a week in January and ate lots of amazing meals together with our partners. Of course, we have to start our gastronomic journey with the most important food group, cake. On the second day of our trip, we arrived at the office of the Association of Mom Christian Women for Development. We had a wonderful afternoon together, celebrating the first group visit in 3 years due to COVID. The association arranged for a group of marimba players from the local cultural center to give us an hour-long concert. So take a listen and watch us dance. It was wonderful to see Rosario, the founder and coordinator of the association. And a lot of these amazing photos that you're going to see tonight, like this one, were taken by Gary Bride, a professional photographer and member of Westminster. After the party, we had a meeting with the association staff and leaders. They gave us an impressive presentation detailing all we have accomplished together in the last 3 years. The next morning, we hit the road and traveled out to the communities where women of the association live. And here is Gary, our photographer, with Luis, trying his hand at piloting the drone that Westminster purchased for SEDEPCA last year for their disaster ministry team. You can see that Gary's aerial photography skills still need a bit of work, but the view is fantastic and it gives you a bird's eye perspective of the communities and the terrain. At each stop, at each aldea little community, we gathered in the homes of the women for introductions and sharing. After the larger group left this home, this woman stayed in her kitchen to proudly show us her fuel-efficient stove and a water filter in the corner. Both are projects of the association. And she is holding a photo of the congregation of Newcastle Presbyterian Church, which has a prayer partnership with this group of women, and they were sending their greetings. After each visit, we are always offered a toll, which is a traditional hot drink made of corn or rice blended with water and sugar. So after drinking so much atoll, we had the opportunity to stop and use this VIP latrine, which is also an association project, on the way down the hill to see one of the new greenhouses. This pilot project is an augmentation of the family garden project. These greenhouses allow women to increase the diversity of vegetables grown and extend the growing season. And we were able to pick some cilantro for lunch. And we also got to spend some time with the women in this community. You can see the colors of their traditional dress are just stunning. And this is another fabulous photo from Gary, one of my favorites. We headed out to see the projects and especially to meet the new chickens. For lack of a better term, we call these fattening chickens. They are raised for meat, not eggs. This was the Advent project that so many of you contributed to. About 70 women now have a set of 20 chickens, and more women will receive them this year. They fatten them up to sell at market or to others in their community while keeping 1 or 2 for themselves. And several women reported that they saved one so that they could have chicken tamales on Christmas Day. Members of the association proudly show us many other of their livestock projects, part of the revolving funds program. And this is Carlos, who's on the call tonight. He is our agroecology expert. He visits the communities several times a week to train the women and be sure that the livestock are healthy and the vegetables are growing well. He is amazing, and he used to work for Heifer International and World Vision. He is a true asset to this work. The women were so proud to show us their various livestock projects. This is one of Tracy's favorite pictures. So after a long morning, it was time for lunch. Pepian. This is a traditional regional dish with wonderful spices and a thick sauce that covers the chicken, vegetables, and rice. The vegetables came from their gardens, and they sacrificed 5 of their chickens to feed us. Pepian is very labor intensive to make, so this lunch was a special treat for us. And the women used the cilantro we picked from the greenhouse for their salsa. So I'm going to show 2 videos, and they're a little rough and the sound isn't great, but you'll get the idea. We just had a wonderful lunch together.
¿Y qué es eso?
Cebolla, ensalada, tomate.
Cebolla es onion, cilantro y tomate. Es como una salsa, ¿sí? Es como una salsa. So this is a salsa. Encima de pepian, then you put it on top of the pepian. Oh my gosh, que rico, amazing, amazing. So you can see we are in this kitchen. This is the group of La Cruz, and they made amazing lunch for us. And we brought some pan. And here is the final product. There's rice and chicken and this creamy stew. And these are the chickens from the projects, and they killed 5 chickens so that we could have this lunch.
I once heard it said that when you live and work in relationship with others, you create a space for God to show up. And I can say with utmost certainty that God was in that kitchen that day. There was so much energy in that room, more than ever before. Everyone was at ease, laughing and chatting and being present with each other. And after the meal, we had a really poignant and meaningful conversation about how the association is helping these women and communities and what their dreams are for their own futures and for the futures of their children. And you may notice that this kitchen is not quite like the others we typically see. It has modern appliances instead of dirt floors. And this is the home of a woman who is a shining star in the association. She's educated, she owns a clinic and a tienda, and like Rosario, she has dedicated her life to serving as a mentor and lifting up other women in her community. And again, the audio is not great, but we wanted you to meet the travelers.
So my mouth is full, excuse me while I'm trying to film all this, but oh my gosh, then they also made this delicious green salsa. It's picante, it's really hot, but then they put that on the soup, and then we have this delicious bread. So we're gonna take a tour. All right, everybody, we're on video here. I think our we're presenting to the people at home this delicious meal. They sacrificed 5 chickens for us from the project so we could have this delicious lunch.
So we'll have to eddy up.
I know.
Make tamales, right?
Yes, delicious.
Really good tamales.
Still trying to figure out how I can read.
Say hi to everybody. Shumway's from Trinity.
Theologically, I'm not sure I
We
can
have
get
Dick,
that. I might try.
Jolly, and Candy from Westminster and Newcastle.
Absolutely.
We have Betsy. Say hi, Betsy Mo. This is our new mission co-worker. Hello. Who's working in Sedapka, mission co-worker from PCUSA, and of course, famous Tracy.
Famous. Or is it
It's our
infamous?
missional
More than
co-worker.
famous.
Our missional presbyter. And of course, then from Limestone Presbyterian, we have Bostic. We have Tim and Norma Bostic. And then we have Gloria Kilby, who is from West Nottingham, representing. She's also a vet, so we have been looking at a lot of cows with her. Yeah, we have Nancy Long, who represents both Hanover and Covenant. A great time. Then we have Kim Ashbourne, who's from Westminster. And Kathy Higgins was sitting right here, but now there's bread on her seat. And Gary Fry. All right, Gary and Charlie, say hi.
Hi.
Westminster, having a good time. We're all sun-kissed and a little wind-swept right now. Then we have Amy from Newcastle Presbyterian Church. And of course, Jill from Aldersgate Presbyterian. You're doing this, sorry, you're doing Methodist. Yes, we do let Methodists travel with us as well. The more the merrier, right? And then you can see the action going on in the kitchen. Oh my gosh, this is the overflow seating here. And I'm hoping the sound worked on this. So, buen provecho.
So I hope you could feel the energy in that room. After lunch, we headed back out to see 2 of the new satellite sewing schools, and I will now hand it over to Jill Murphy from Aldersgate Methodist Church in North Carolina.
Hi. So in 1987, a mission team from Aldersgate Methodist Church, led by Ann Finch, who's here with us tonight, traveled to Guatemala and asked the women of the association, if you could have anything, what would it be? The women immediately responded in unison, a sewing machine. So Anne and Rosario borrowed a Jeep, traveled down a dusty road into town, and purchased the very first foot-pedaled Singer sewing machine. Little did they know that was just the beginning. Fast forward to today, and we are delighted to report that there are now 4 formal sewing schools teaching about 150 students each year. During our trip, we were lucky enough to visit the 2 brand new satellite schools, and that just opened, the 2 schools that just opened in a small village, so women could have opportunities closer to home. Students attend class for 8 hours a day, often with babies on their backs. These sewing schools provide an opportunity for women to learn a skill that can generate income for their families. And recent graduates are now working as the teachers for the new schools. A huge thank you goes to the members of Aldersgate for supporting this mission for so many decades. And sorry if you heard squeaking in the background, that's my puppy dog on her chew toy.
Thanks, Jill. So the next morning, we headed out to yet another community to see the reforestation project that Bruce and Carol Shumway from Trinity will tell us about now.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
In this section of What's Cooking in Guatemala, Carol and I are going to address what the association women use to cook with, wood and wood stoves. For the past several years, Trinity Presbyterian Church has been very invested in reforestation in Guatemala as part of our yearly mission giving. Here, our group treks up the last part of the climb to a reforestation site at 10,000 feet. Carlos, our resident agriculturalist, explained the planting process and the promotion of healthy forests. The area is lovingly tended by some association women. They have learned from their ancestors that they must be good stewards of the forest despite their daily living struggles. Listen to their own words about their ancestral admonitions to cutting down trees.
She said, my grandmother told me.
Mi abuela me enseñó cómo seleccionar semilla y en qué meses y en qué tiempo de luna llena y en qué tierra brosa se siembra la semilla.
De árboles.
De arbolitos.
Okay, my grandmother was the one that taught me when to plant because we need to check the moon. You know, the phase of the moon. Where to plant. And
Yo era de 10 años cuando empecé ese trabajo.
I was 10 years old when I started to learn that from my grandmother.
Ahora tengo 32 años.
I am 32 now.
Tengo mucha experiencia y me gusta trabajar con el vivero forestal.
I have a lot of experience and I really enjoy working with the reforestation program.
Mi abuela me dijo de que cortar un árbol, sembrar 10 arbolitos.
A lesson that I learned from my grandmother was this: cut one tree, plant 10.
So I hope you heard that. For every tree that they cut, they plant 10.
Según nuestros abuelitos, cuando nos empiezan a contar sus historias,
Our grandparents, when they were telling us their stories,
para ellos es muy, pero muy importante pedirle perdón a un árbol antes de cortarlo.
they told us that before to cut down a tree, we need to ask for forgiveness to them.
Al momento de empezar a sembrar la tierra y empezar a barbechar, se le pide permiso a Dios.
Before to prepare the soil to plant something, we need to ask permission to God
Igual que al agua.
and to the water source.
Para los abuelitos y las bisabuelas es muy sagrado todo lo que tenga que ver con tierra, agua, la lluvia, todo eso.
For our grandparents and grandmothers, everything related to nature was sacred. The ground, the soil, the air, the water sources, everything.
Entonces eso viene desde nuestros abuelos hasta ahora.
We have received this from our grandparents from generation to generation.
Another project dear to our heart at Trinity is the Stove Project. One of our member families lost their Guatemalan son a few years ago, and in his memory have generously provided funding for stoves. The stoves are safer, more cost-efficient, transportable, and healthier than previous models due to a ventilation system. The stoves are also more efficient, reducing the quantity of firewood needed for cooking, thus promoting sustainable living. My husband and I are pictured with an association woman and Vicente and Alfredo, who operate the stove business. The Stove Project benefits the women of the association and has created a small business startup for Vicente, Alfredo, and their crew. Listen to Vicente describe the features of the new model stoves.
La información que estamos recibiendo que la estufa es bastante eficiente para las necesidades de la cocina.
So every time we come, we listen to people and they tell us how efficient the stoves are for the benefit of the whole family.
Nati nos comenta de que ella tiene una estufa grande, está en la otra cocina.
So Nati was telling us that she has a big stove in her kitchen.
Ella hace uso ¿de cuántas leñas en la grande?
5 o 6 según dependa que se caliente o que se cocina.
Usa 6 a 7 leñas en un tiempo de comida en la estufa grande.
So in that big stove, Nati, ¿verdad? Nati uses like 6 wood sticks to make or prepare the food.
Con esta estufa ella solo usa 2.
With these kind of stoves, she can use only 2.
Es un gran logro porque menos leña, menos árboles se cortan al año.
So it's a great achievement because if we use less wood, we will have less need to cut down the trees.
So by now it was time to eat again. We had another wonderful lunch in this community. We were served paches, as you see here, which are banana leaves filled with potatoes or rice, and caldo, which is a soup with vegetables and meat. And again, many elements of this meal came from their projects.
So today for lunch, we are with a group of Cajola, and we are having caldo, which has, it's a soup with meat and corn and onions and carrots and potatoes. It's delicious. And you can see the women are making it for us here. They've been working really hard all day on this beautiful, beautiful dish for our lunch. They're serving us. Oh my goodness, it's gorgeous, gorgeous. Qué bonita. Gracias.
And you can hear them speaking mom in the background. So this was our table this day for lunch. A lot of energy in this room as well. And a few of our travelers had the rare opportunity to meet their prayer partners. We have more than 400 prayer partners now, half in Guatemala and half in the United States. After lunch, we headed out to see 2 more greenhouses in this community. This one had just been planted with tomatoes. So they were just starting to grow. And then you can see this one is much further along in the growing season. The women use some tomatoes for their own cooking and sell the excess for income, for extra income at market. The next day, we visited a 4th community and met Justa, who started a chocolate making business with funds that she received from the association's revolving fund program. We watched her walk us through the entire process of how she makes the chocolate, and we were able to purchase blocks of the chocolate to bring home. If any of you had hot chocolate served to you at your church presentation recently, this is where it came from. And there are several other women in this community who have launched successful businesses with their revolving funds from the association. One has a small tienda, another has a restaurant, and yet another has grown her bakery into an impressive operation. And this is another Justa, a younger Justa, who is with us on the call today. And we were blown away when she gave us a tour of her bakery. So check this out.
This is a bakery that the women have opened using their funds from the revolving funds program of the association. You can see the beautiful, oh my gosh, bread, cookies, cream-filled donuts, jelly-filled cookies. Oh my gosh.
He is cranking those things
And
out.
now,
Go back and watch him.
yoli, holy cow, look at this place. Just trays and trays, and it's hot in here. Hola, buenos dias. Just gonna put them in the oven. Oh my God, look how beautiful. Here, wait, oh, wow. So now we're in the back room where they're making all the dough. Look at this. Makes the ball, throws it on the scale. Makes the ball, throws it on the scale. And they're all exactly the right weight. Wow. Look at this. Look, making the dough. Look at this. Look at this. Holy moly. So he takes the bread and puts the butter and herbs on it. Felicitaciones, congratulations. This is an amazing business. And they also sell this bread to the restaurant that is next door that's owned by another woman of the association.
It was such an impressive bakery. So after those days in the communities, we took a short overnight break in Lake Atitlan to recharge before heading back into Guatemala City, where we visited Emerson's church and had the privilege of meeting several youth who had just started their own bakery project in the church building. They received a grant from PCUSA's Self-Development of People program, which is funded by One Great Hour of Sharing. So when you make your donation next month in your church's offering plate, you will have a good idea about how these funds are being used. And here you can see how they make the dough, how these youth in their bakery make the dough.
Vainilla escocesa, dos tapones.
Swedish vanilla. And we are going to add 2 cups.
2 cups.
Linz.
A cup is.
Emerson, you don't bake?
I don't. I don't cook. I like to. Oh, I like to eat.
No mezclamos.
And then the youth patiently attempted to show us how to make the pastries. And we did a pretty good job, but not perfection.
All right, Nancy, look up here. All right, Nancy's trying her hand at making the bread. All right, how are we doing?
Oh, they're not pretty, but it's fun. There.
All right. I think you have to stretch it. Stretch and pull, stretch and pull.
Oh, see, I didn't remember that the first one. That's why.
I had to take off my gloves, so I'll back it off.
Una más? Una más?
That's all I have to say
All
about
right,
that.
oh, look at that. Nancy wins the prize. Look at Nancy.
Look at that.
All right, Nancy's just looking
It's
amazing.
like a caterpillar.
All right, Nancy, great.
Good job, Nancy. And during our visit, Charlie Ingersoll from Westminster had a fabulous idea about planning a field trip for these youth at Emerson's church to go out to Shela to visit Justa's bakery that we just saw in the previous video, the one owned by Justa of the association. So that plan is in the works, and hopefully in November that will happen. So we will keep you posted. It's really exciting. And we have just a couple other random food shots. As you can see, we did not go hungry. We had freshly squeezed orange juice every morning at the retreat center. And here we are buying the best coffee in all of Guatemala in downtown Quetzaltenango. And we will wrap up with this photo of Kim Eschborn. And Gary said this is one of his most favorite pictures of the trip, of Kim drinking her hot chocolate at the lake. So I would now like to ask Nancy Long to share with us her incredibly creative and poignant reflection of the trip. Nancy.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm Nancy Long, and I represent both Hanover and Covenant, and this was my first trip to Guatemala. As I traveled to Guatemala, I became acutely aware of the stark contrasts that accentuated the country: poverty and abundance, conflict and peace, despair and hope. The vibrant colors and controlled chaos of the country also reminded me of kaleidoscopes. Kaleidoscopes create images using 3 mirrors, and the images reflected in the other mirrors form the beautiful patterns we behold as we look through the eyepiece. As we view the contrasts and contradictions through our Guatemalan kaleidoscope, the effect is one of fractured beauty. But let us remember that a feature of kaleidoscopes is that the patterns and shapes shift. I wonder, can the work of the association, SEDEPCA, and Newcastle Presbytery shift the vision for the future of the people there, and for our own future, for that matter? The days we spent with our partners in Guatemala convinced me that things are indeed changing and new and exciting patterns are emerging. The contrasts can be shaken up, rotated with grit and determination to produce a new future. We ask God to take the broken and the beautiful pieces that are Guatemala and create a future where people don't just survive, but thrive. In this next video, I will share photos that I have processed through a kaleidoscope app. You will first see the kaleidoscope image, followed by the original photo. It is fun to try to guess what the image is, and it also offers a chance to reflect on what is possible when we reimagine our realities.
Thank you, Nancy. That was just gorgeous and amazing way to reimagine the future. I'm Gloria Kilby from West Nottingham Presbyterian Church, and this was my first trip too. Although our trip is near its end this evening, the journey continues. We hope your hearts and stomachs are full. We are grateful for each and every one of you who has so generously supported this partnership with your time, talent, and treasure. It would not be possible without you. Before we share our final video, we want to say a special thanks to Adam Hubert, who took the raw footage from our phones and turned it into some of the fabulous videos you saw today. Adam is a local 11th grader who participates in an after-school video production program at Bellevue Community Center in North Wilmington. He has been helping us create many of our videos you have seen this past year. I think Adam deserves a round of applause.
Yay, Adam. He has been amazing with all this raw footage. He just puts it together. It's great.
Amazing. We again want to give credit to Gary Bride, who took many of the incredible photos you saw tonight. Thank you, Gary.
We have a good collection. We can freshen up our website with all these amazing photos.
Yes, Gary's great. We also want to formally recognize Chris Hickey for working stateside during our travels to help us post our blogs each day. Thank you, Chris. We hope you were able to follow along with us. If you missed a few posts, you can go back and read them all on our website. And finally, we want to thank the staff of SEDEPCA, Betsy, Emerson, and Luis for accompanying us, making all of our travel arrangements, ensuring we got around safely, and making our trip a true intercultural encounter. We are so grateful to have them as partners. We will conclude this evening's program with our final reflections, and then we'll have time for questions and conversation.
I saw Christ's love in action this week. I saw the love that mothers had for their children, and so they're fighting for their education and to make a new way for themselves. I saw love between the Women's Association that they showed towards the visitors that came in the meals they prepared. I saw Christ's love in action in the way that Newcastle Presbytery has determined to love people in Guatemala.
I saw Christ on this trip during one of our visits to one of the small towns when we went to the greenhouses. There was a woman who was beckoning me to follow her as we turned a corner, and I wasn't sure which way to go. But the look on her face and the smile on her face just made me feel comfortable, as if she was really an emissary of Christ.
I believe in a God who is a community, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It was wonderful during this week to see the same among this group that came from the U.S., from churches in the U.S., and communities, people here in Guatemala. No matter our skin color, no matter the language we speak, no matter the gender or the age, we were just brothers and sisters enjoying the love of God and living together, sharing the bread, sharing tortillas, sharing life. That's wonderful. I saw God through this experience and encounter with brothers and sisters.
I saw Jesus in the faces of the young women with their children, hard at work, carrying them on their back, all around them, the well-behaved children, and the women who were proud to have them with them. No daycare, always around them.
So I have seen Christ in all things this week. I see that he's gone before us in everything that we've done.
So Carol, where did you see Christ on this trip?
Over my bed at the Catholic Retreat Center.
I saw Jesus in the faces of the young Guatemalan people that we met, the entrepreneurs, the women that are working on projects that are taking them to a future that they're excited about, and God is with them.
One of the places where I saw the face of Jesus was in a little chapel where we learned about the life and the martyrdom of Aplas Stanley Rother.
On the way back from Pantajal, we were stranded for a brief period of time on the side of a mountain with a sharp curve, and the water heater of the motor overheated and we were kind of stranded. And so cars went by, and one car went by, and then, don't you know, they came back and they had several bottles of containers of water to help us fill the radiator that had exploded when the driver had taken the cap off. What a wonderful thing, because we were at least 2.5 hours from Guatemala City up in the mountains, and oh my gosh.
I saw Jesus in the faces and the hands and the hearts of each of the team members that came with us as they shared their love and their compassion and their sense of God's presence right in Guatemala.
Okay, where did I see Jesus on this trip? I have to compare it with when I was here 3 years ago, when the women were much more subdued. They were shy, they were hesitant to speak up and so forth. This time we were at Agua Blanca group, and we had just gone down this steep hill to go see a beautiful greenhouse, and I was taking pictures of people and showing them their reflection, and this one woman came up to me and gestured that she wanted me to take her picture. And she wanted me to take her whole picture, not just a close-up. And so she moved me back, she stood there, and then she stood up and she put her hands right here. And I wish I could convey to you the power of it. She just stood there like this mighty woman, this mighty warrior, and waited till I took her picture. And I showed it to her, and this is what it reminded me of, the Transfiguration. The Transfiguration is when Jesus' disciples saw him and saw who, I'm gonna get choked up here, saw who he really was. They saw who Jesus really was. And I looked at this woman and I thought of all the things that they're learning through the Sedepka work and through the Mom Christian Women. And I thought, this woman is appearing in all her glory. And she's so proud of who she is and the work that she's doing. And I saw Jesus.
Amen to that, Tracy. Thank you. That's a wonderful way to end the evening tonight. I hope you've enjoyed our video presentation. If you want to learn more about this partnership, make a gift, schedule a presentation at your church, travel with us, we really hope you will reach out to us. You can go on our website here, ncpguatemala.com. Everything you need to know is there. Feel free to contact me or any of the travelers or steering committee members. This partnership is really growing and it wouldn't be possible without you. Amazing things are happening. So we would love to hear from you.